and welcome back to the Next Metal Production channel here at YouTube. So, I'm here back with another album review. As you can see by the title, I'm here to review The Rise of Chaos from Accept, which is their newest album in 3 years since 2014's Blind Rage. Now, of course, again, this is their 4th album with, of course, singer Mark Tonillo, who, of course, debuted on 2010's Blood of the Nations, which, of course, he had replaced original singer Udo Dirkenschneider, who, of course, was Accept singer, definitely from the classic albums, you know, basically being Breaker, Restless and Wild, Balls to the Wall, which was definitely their more bigger album, definitely probably their breakthrough album in terms of commercially, but and of course, you know, on even albums such as Metal Heart and even, of course, Russian Roulette. Of course, even in the 90s with Object and Overruled, Death Row, and Predator, which Predator might have been the weakest album, I think, with Udo Dirkenschneider on vocals. The other 2 albums that he had, you know, was on in the 90s were not bad. Of course, since then, he's been doing solo stuff. So I'm not going to go and complain that, oh, geez, Udo's not an Accept anymore. I've been liking the albums with Mark Tonillo on vocals. So, of course, it should definitely be noted that Mark Tonillo is definitely not the second singer for Accept. Everyone remember Eat the Heat? But still, since then, with Mark Tonillo being back on, still with Accept at this point, still, definitely good. However, since 2014's Blind Rage, there has been 2 lineup changes. Definitely was definitely released back in 2014 that Herman Frank and drummer Stefan Schwarzmann definitely had left the band. So since then, they've definitely had 2 members come in to replace those 2 guys, which of course going to here, which are Uwe Lulis and Christopher Williams. Now, with that, definitely it took them at least a bit to, 2 or 3 years at least to kind of, get a new album out. And since then, they've had at least a live album, which was Restless and Live, which was just released also this year. And of course, they did their anniversary show at Wacken, of course, already, which was a, just look at that. Amazing. So, with that, they are here back with The Rise of Chaos, which of course is this album right here. And basically at this point, this is what you've come to expect from Accept. It sounds like Accept. There really isn't anything different here. There really isn't. While his debut album with, on Blood of the Nations kind of gave you a bit of that, there was a little bit different, a little more melodic, I guess you can say, but then again, Accept kind of were bringing a more melodic sense, at least, since albums, such as, probably since, like, Metal Heart and Russian Roulette, they kind of were bringing a more sound that would, especially on the Russian Roulette album, which kind of was, creating, or that blueprint for that sort of European, German, power metal sound in a way. Even though they were very influential to that German scene on this album, you kind of end up getting reminded for why they were an influential, band on that German scene. You get that. And especially on Blind Rage, you got that. But on here, I think the fact is, I don't know. I think the sound is probably just as good as Blind Rage, but I think the sound is probably a little better. Probably better. I don't know. I think because of with each album, they've, I think, gotten more hookier. And we're definitely, we're really writing more, even more real personal lyrics almost, or more deeper. And of course the sound, I don't know if you can say everything's deep, but it just comes at a really good, at probably the most perfect of times, I guess you could say. Especially given politics, whatever, the whole title of the sound, The Rise of Chaos, this I think in a way really just perfectly, summons up the whole situation right now in this world. And everything from the first track, Die by the Sword, all the way to the last track, Race to Extinction. This is just a real, just classic accept in a way. This is just real, just everything from the sound. There's you got your fast songs, you got your, mid-pace tracks, more hard rockin' type of songs, those that got that sort of AC/DC mix with, Judas Priest type of, riffs that you kind of, that definitely, created classic tracks such as Balls to the Wall. You still get that on this album. They're really anything different. It's just the lyrics definitely seem to be even more deeper on this album, a bit more. But I don't know, you can say as deep as probably the song Kool-Aid, which from the track, the name of the track, yeah, probably seems real silly. But if you pay attention to the lyrics, it's not nearly as silly as you've come to think. It's a very sort of dark track because it actually is about the whole Jim Jones cult, which of course, that whole situation, which the day at Guyana, alright? Basically what happened is that Jim Jones pretty much poisoned his followers, which of course summoned up men, women, and children. Basically putting cyanide in Kool-Aid and pretty much killing all of his people. Of course, after that, on that same day, he ended up, shooting himself in the head. It's a real dark track. But there's a meaning behind the track, and that's basically, don't drink the Kool-Aid, which has become a saying for years now. Especially now. This song couldn't come at any better time. It of course comes during the whole time with fucking Donald Trump as president. So in a way, it just summons up the whole situation with the followers for politics and left and right. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Of course, he even got it just summons up the whole situation. However, there's even another track on here that also sticks out at me as well, and that's Analog Man. And I guess I'm going to have to bring out the lyric book for this, because when it comes to technology, and for those who are definitely tired of it, whatever, especially when it comes to computers, this song's for you. Basically, the lines that definitely speak to you is basically update and download. For someone like me who went through computers and everything, this track just, in a way, it just speaks to you. Update and download. There's no winning, just insanity. Update and download. The wheel keeps spinning. Just set me free. I'm an analog man. I'm an analog man trapped in the digital world. Basically, everything about this. It's more the cons about technology, and it's definitely a very well written track. And of course, on here, I keep surfing with the crowd. My information's on a cloud. My profile gets hacked almost every day. Basically, again, the cons of having to put your information all up on a damn internet cloud. Especially for one when it comes to even the PlayStation 4, to find out that you have to save your information off the cloud, and then to find out that if you're everything on your cloud all of a sudden is, completely, let's say, filled, you can't save anymore. You gotta delete something. What happened to just having a fucking memory card? Jesus Christ. The whole song, in a way, does your argument on here. It does your whole entire argument for you. You don't have to say anything. Just put on Analog Man to somebody like from Microsoft, whoever, and just play it for them, and they'll get the whole message. It's basically that. Just definitely a hooky track with your, your typical balls to the wall or get ready type of, riffing on this track, but it's just the lyrics. It definitely speaks to those who get tired of using technology, and for those who were very much so used to that, analog stuff that they were growing up as a kid back in those times. And in a way, the song just summons it. Other than that, the whole album from here is just very much, it's just mixed very well in terms of, it's like they are able to bring it with some up-tempo tracks, some faster tracks, some heavier tracks, somewhat more melodic tracks, but each track has a hook to it. Wolf Hoffman at this point, I think, is just... He does. I don't think he's ever written a dud, even though he has in some ways. Everyone, of course, writes a dud once in a while. But here, he's able to at least, get the album to where there's at least, a hook in every track. It's got, it just sticks in your head. And it's that sort of, thing that keeps you wanting more. And of course, this is a bit of a shorter album in a way. Of course, it's 46 minutes. In a way, 46 minutes and 28 seconds. The last one is almost pretty much around 58. And of course, if you had gotten the Japanese copy for that album, which for this album there is no special Japanese copy with an extra bonus track. But that one just made it to almost 61 minutes or so. And right here, it's not that. It's just got, I think, a good enough, time to it. It's just, panned out well. It's paced out better in a way, even though I like the other three albums. But here, this one again, I think they just seem to just write even more hookier tracks, more songs that just tend to really stick. It's like they just seem to definitely pan everything out better with each album in terms of lyrics, with writing, whatever. It's definitely just a good album. I can't say anything bad about it. So with that, the score, 9.1 out of 10. Definitely a really solid album. Again, except can't really write a terrible album. Sure, you might be more of a fan of the Udo Dirkenschneider, era albums because of Udo with his very charismatic voice. But Mark Tonillo, I think, has kind of made it to where he's probably the second best singer since Udo. And I know that's almost blasphemous to say, but he's really, I think, almost made himself almost a permanent member. Just like how Brian Johnson made himself a permanent member, with AC/DC. It's basically what it's come to. Same thing with even Bruce Dickinson and Iron Maiden. Well, to some extent, maybe, guys such as maybe Tim Ripper Owens for Judas Priest probably wasn't able to do that. Or, I'm also forgetting the other guy for fucking Iron Maiden. God, I can't remember that. Blaze Bayley. Even that guy couldn't be able to kind of, wasn't able to make himself kind of a permanent member for a while in Iron Maiden. But even Accept couldn't do the same thing with David Reese on the Eat the Heat album, which nobody seems to care for, which it's an alright album, but it's not nearly the best. And it's definitely not one of those albums where you immediately think of Accept. But with Mark Tonillo, it seemed like he just was able to do it right, I think. That, or it could be because of Wolf Hoffman, I don't know. But they are able to churn out at least pretty solid albums since Blood of Nations. It's just turned into that. And I can't say anything bad. So, in a way, Rise of Chaos, real solid album from start to finish as usual. And just again, probably the most hookiest of their album since their classic 80s catalog. Since, Breaker, Restless and Wild, and Balls to the Wall. Even to some extent, even Metal Heart, which I definitely like, even though that was more of a commercial sounding album. But again, that album was still able to have, hooks on that album. Even to some extent, even albums such as Russian Roulette was able to have hooks on it. Like Wolf Hoffman at this point, he can't do any wrong in ways, even though Predator kind of had some iffy tracks, but that's probably due to at least Peter Baltz, or Baldies, whatever was the best way, I guess, to say his last name. I think it's Baltz. Anyway, just a good album from a German classic metal band, except, of course, it was definitely released today. What are your thoughts on it? If you have any thoughts on the album, you can definitely compose your thoughts below in the comment section. Until then, this is Heavy Thrasher. I'd say I'm out. And I'll definitely be playing more of this album from the next couple of days. Probably be within the next couple of months. So I'll see you later.